Hello everybody, welcome back. Part 14. Bit of a different overview, as you can see. Reason being is that I've been waiting on my grasses and tufts and all that to be delivered, and it's taken a whole week. So I've not actually done any work on the actual diorama, but the week that I've not been out, I've been getting on with a lot of the fixture and fitting, should I say. We've got, as you can see in the background, we've got loads of bits and pieces that I've been working on. I've got one of the breakdown trucks that's completed, ready to go on the diorama. I've been doing some weathering and some other bits and pieces. There's lots of jacks, benches, tools, ladders, compressors, settling, cutting torches, all this bits and pieces that are actually going inside the barn to finish it all off. And like I say, I've been doing this while I've been waiting for the grass materials to turn up. Also, what I've done just down here, I've actually made some small work lights up which actually work, but we will have a look at them a bit later on, because I will be fitting them and I'll run through how I'm doing that as well. For those who are interested, what I will do some pictures of everything that I've done, and I will tag them on to the end of this video. So with that, I'm going to get this lot cleared away. I'm going to get the diorama base in, and then we're going to get started on some grass, putting some grass down and getting it to sort of like on the road to be finished. So put you on pause, we'll be back in a second. Now, cleaned away all my bits and pieces that I've been working on, the truck and everything else. I've actually got the base onto my bench. Now, a very quick overview, and I told a little bit of a lie in the last clip. I did say we will be getting on with the grass. We will be getting on with the grass, but that will be a little bit later. The overview, I think the last time we did all the soil and the paths, we got all that sorted out. So everything's ready now to sort of get on. But if we move round, as you can see, I've been playing about with some lights. Now, I had lights in mind, but I wasn't too fussed if they were going to go in or not. But I started playing about making some lights in the hangout because I was a little bit bored. I didn't have anything I could do, and I couldn't do no videoing. So I made these lights up very simply out of a few odds and sods that I had, and they actually look pretty good when they're switched on. If we bring the camera in, and they really do give a pretty good effect inside. Excuse all the wires, we're going to have to tidy all these up. They're roughly positioned at the moment, just taped in. So I feel I should get on and get these fitted. It's going to be difficult because I haven't got much room to work in. So what I'm going to do first is I shall run through quickly what I use to actually make them up, and then I will do as many clips as I can, because there's going to be a lot of cursing and swearing going on this one. Me putting how I'm laying the wires in and bits and pieces like that. Okay, nice and close to the three little lights that I made to go inside the barn. They were very easy to make. I made them from the bits and pieces that I had in my spare box, and the nice thing about them, as you can see, they worked. So what I'll do now is I'll pull the camera back and we'll just run through what I actually used. Now, making these little lights, now I started off with a set of these little Christmas tree lights. Now these came from the pound shop, and actually this particular set, my friend John Moore, he actually sent me these as a joke for Christmas, and I think the joke's back on him because they're very useful. Now, I'm using these for the simple reason is there's no resistor on the actual LED, which is good because you don't have to mess about soldering resistors back on, and also it's just got a very small power pack that takes two 1.5 batteries, and that's it. And they're just daisy chained up. So all I've done is I split the coating back off, taken the a bit of silicone in that is in between to stop them from touching, and desoldered them. Simple as that. And that's, move that out of the way, and what you end up with is a little LED like so, with the two little legs. That's what I'm actually using for the light. Now the actual shade that I used, I found this in my scrap box, well, spares box should I say. These are the ends of a motor torpedo boat. These go on the end of the tubes. I had 4 of them and they did the job extremely well. Very simply, all I did was I drilled 2 small holes in the bottom so the LED legs came out, as you can see there. I glued the LED in position with just a bit of super glue, nothing too fantastic. Then what I did was I made this wire frame up that goes over the top of the LED, after painting the inside white, by the way. So all I did was, this is 0.6 wire, and all I did was drill 1 hole that side, 1 hole that side, then just horseshoed a piece of wire across, super glued it in place, and then snipped it off at the back. By snipping it off at the back, it makes like a little rivet detail on it, which looks quite good, which I left. I didn't bother sanding it down or anything. So I just did exactly the same all the way across until I'd finished it, and that's what you end up getting, just that little cover, which is rather nice. And then what I needed to do was to actually make this back bit up. So I did make a few mistakes. I glued this bit on first before I soldered the wires on, wrong thing. So you need to cut these pins back to roughly about 5-6 mil, and then solder your wires on. Now the wires, I will tell you where I got these from. I got them out of a USB cable you get for phones and things like that. The little, just strip the insulation back and you've got these real nice thin cables, which is ideal. Then I just soldered the wires onto the pins, but you have to make sure on these that you get the live and you get the positive round the right way. That's the reason why I use red and black, so it coincides with live and the neutral. So I just soldered them on, and then I made a little sleeve up to go over the top here, which is that bit just there. And all I had actually was a spare gas tube, that gas cylinder, and I just cut that down into sections, slid it over the top, glued it into position, nothing too fantastic, and then when it was dry I filled the inside of the tube with the wires. I just used a little bit of silicone. You could use filler, anything like that, but I had silicone and I thought, well, I'll fill that with silicone and that will also hold the wires a little bit better as well. So that's it. It was a very simple and straightforward build, nothing too complicated. I can't show you because I've already used up my 4 little lights. So lights are done. Hope you sort of got the gist of how I made them. Now I'm going to crack on now and get these actually fitted, because I really want to get these done, and it's going to take me most of the day to get this done. So here we go. There's no great plan for this. I'm going to be flying this by the seat of my pants, and to be 100% honest with you, these lights should have been put in before I actually glued the barn to the base, but that's the way it goes. So I'm going to have to do this the best way I can, because I do want these lights in now. So my first light is going to be roughly about here, hanging down over where they're taking the engine out of the lorry. So my plan is, I know it's a little bit dark in there, but my plan is to actually hang this light from this beam here. If I move that out of the way, will it brighten up there a bit? It will, yeah. Is to hang it from this beam here, and to actually run the cable behind the back of this beam right the way to this far end. So that's what I'm going to be doing first, and I'm not going to video it because the simple reason is I'm going to need to be all over the place in it doing this. So I shall glue this first light in all the way down that back beam, and when I've done that I'll come back to you. Okay, a total change of plan after struggling for quite a while to try and get these cables glued in so you couldn't see them. I have changed the direction that I am going in, and like I said, I'm flying this by the seat of my pants. Instead of trying to hide the cables, I'm going to loop them across the ceiling and down, as thinking about it, they would be only temporary work lights, so you would see the cables, they would be hanging around. So what I've actually done is I've made a small bracket on top of the light, if I can get a pointy stick. I've made a small bracket very similar to a bucket handle, which I've drilled a hole in either side and made a loop. Then I've hooked a piece of chain on, and then what I've done is I've put a little piece of wire as a peg or a nail that the chain is actually hanging on, and that's how I'm going to hang my lights. So all I'm going to do now is sort of hang the other two lights, and then I'm just going to bring the cables across, and I'm just going to tie them up in a bunch, then drop them down in the corner. That's the plan. So I'm now going to get on with that because I need to twist all these wires together. So I'm going to get on with twisting the wires together, super gluing them together. I shall get the other two hung, and then I'll come back to you so you can have a little look, see what they look like. Okay, it's been a whole day since the last clip. This has been a nightmare, but we've got there in the end. A few things have changed. Last clip I did say I was going to twist the wires. I untwisted the wires because they looked a little bit too out of scale. What I've done instead, I've actually glued the two wires together, which is giving it a smaller profile, which I'm a lot happier with. Now all three lights have been hung. I've hung them on the bucket handles with a bit of chain and just a small bit of wire as a peg to hold everything up. Now what I'm going to do now is I'll move you around and I'll just show you how I've ran the cables around. Now what I've done is I've looped the cables up and brought them down this far corner down to the floor, and then I've ran them all the way along this front edge, and they actually disappear through a hole which I will try and show you in this far corner. Now I am going to disguise all these with some soil. I'm going to make them disappear totally, because what I want to do is have the cables sort of spooled across the floor, but that will come later. All I wanted to do this time was to actually get these in, and then I'll work on making things look a bit more realistic. So everything runs down and into the floor, and I'm going to wobble it around a bit, and they all switch on. So we've got our three lights all working. The battery pack is actually underneath the diorama base, which I shall show you in a second, and I'm going to leave it with batteries because it's going to be too complicated to try and get that to work on a main supply. Now underneath, yes I know it looks a little bit untidy. What I've done is we've got a hole just there that runs right the way through to the actual diorama, which I've brought all the cables down. I've just glued the power pack on that came with the lights. Very straightforward, very simple. Nice little power pack, and it comes level with the rest of the bits and pieces, which is brilliant. It's 18mm in diameter, so it fits underneath there just nicely. I'm quite happy with that. As for fixing it up to the mains, it's going to be too complicated to actually do that. Be a lot of messing about. I'm just going to leave it with the power pack and switch it on when it's required. We'll be tidying all this up. I will be cutting these back and resoldering them and tidying them up, and we'll probably even paint that black so it don't stand out that much. But all in all, quite happy. It's all come together well, considering this really should have been done at the beginning. So we're going to leave that now, and we're going to move on, and we're going to get on with some grass. Okay, I did say we were going to do some grasses, but it's just too hot for me to continue on with the grass. But I will give you a quick overview, sort of where we're going to be starting, and it's going to be on the next video. Now, we've got the breakdown truck which is going on the back, and this is where we're going to be starting, and I want to just sort of build it up in layers and get the grass flattened down so it looks like the vehicle's driven in. I'm also going to have a figure here actually just doing a bit of work on, so it's going to be trampled and flattened. But that's all going to be in the next video. I'm going to get this short video out, so hopefully it's going to cool down a lot more so I can actually get back in here and get to work on the grasses. So with that, all I can do is say thank you very much for joining me. Hopefully we'll see you on the next video. Until then.